So that solar plexus blockage that you have is actually regarding your own faith that things are going to turn out the way that you want them to, or that is aligned for you, because those are two very different things. Wanting something to work out for you, for your highest good, for your highest path or highest timeline is one thing. Wanting things to work out the way that you want them to is actually quite a different thing, because oftentimes we don't see all of the things ahead of us that can happen, and the things that we want may not be exactly what we are meant for. Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. I'm Annette DeLu, Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. I want to thank you for joining me today. The Akashic Recordings is created through the cooperation of my clients who have agreed to have their sessions recorded. Of course, with their permission, I am able to share these beautiful sessions with you. If you are interested in booking a session with me, you can go to my website at infinitesoullove.com. I have some exciting news. Soul Discovery Workshop registration is open right now. It is going to be open until November 19th, and there are very limited spots available. So make sure that you head to my website at infinitesoullove.com and you can register directly there. You have two options. You can pay in full, and you can also pay in 4 different payments over the course of 4 months. You will be so grateful that you spent this time and energy on your spiritual journey. This will propel you forward in ways that maybe you haven't been able to thus far. I can't wait to connect to the group of you. We're going to work together for 3 months, and it's going to be transformative. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email on my contact page on the website. Amber came to me to work through some issues regarding money blocks and how to step forward into her new business. And what this uncovered were many different aspects to why she was feeling that she couldn't move forward in her business. There were abundance blocks, but there were also judgments regarding receiving money, as well as trying to figure out the right timing of things. We dive into several past lives with her today, and we go into different ways that you can start to remove your own abundance blocks. Okay, so tell me some of the things you would like to cover today.
I would love to dive into business topics like creating my soul-aligned business, which I've been trying for 2 years now. That propelled me into a journey of self-discovery and shadow work, and also opening to my spiritual side. So there's a lot been happening, especially in the last half year. So I feel like I'm really on a transformational journey of awakening, which we also talked about in our last session, where you told me about my life purpose, or my life purpose in this earthly life, which did make a lot of sense. But of course, still I'm grappling with the same issues. So one issue is that I always find it so difficult to trust my ideas or trust myself and voice myself. Like, what is holding me back from just sharing my voice or sharing my own thoughts? So there I have a pattern of creating things and not launching them. The other pattern that I have in regards to this is that I create things up to 90%. They're almost finished, and then I forget about them. So again, I don't launch, or I don't share with the world. And sometimes I come back to it like months later, and then I do the launch, which is okay. Like, I believe in divine timing and in my sense of divine timing. But it is a recurring pattern where I just sense there's something in this that we can look into.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and one thing I'd really love to know is if there are any spiritual modalities that would feel like home for me, like maybe that I've used in past lives that I can connect with in a playful way. Anything my guides or your guides would recommend, because I am really tapping into that. And also, like, I'm building a human design business. I started off with pattern design, which wasn't fully aligned, and then I found my spiritual self, and so now I'm transitioning to human design. And the idea is to create intuitive human design, like to tap into my other gifts and to channel information. And your guides last time, they told me that human design and what I'm learning now, those are just tools for my toolbox. But in the end, it will be far more spiritual than that.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes a lot of sense, and that is what I actually feel. But I would really love to know if your guides have a vision of me in my highest self or my highest timeline, or do they see me giving readings or coaching or having a podcast or writing books, group settings, one-on-one. There's so many possibilities. Like if anything is more aligned to me than other options, or if it's just a matter of trying out and seeing what fits.
You have done quite a bit of shadow work. I'm seeing that your root chakra is doing really, really well. So what that tells us actually is that some of these patterns that you have of not completing projects or not finishing projects, it's not rooted in fear, which is a good thing. That means that it could just be something else that is sort of holding you back a little bit. Okay, so then let's move that energy up to your sacral chakra. Yeah, that's where the problem is. They're showing me these beautiful tendrils of orange light, like flames coming off of your sacral chakra, but then it's almost as if they get a little bit dim at the edges, and then they just sort of collapse upon each other. What that's saying to me is that your creative energy is not landing. And I'm hearing the words they're saying are like you can't ground it into the physical, which is interesting because if your root chakra is doing really well, then there really is no reason for you to not be able to ground it into the physical. So they're saying that this is definitely a past life pattern that you can just clear relatively quickly in order to be able to move forward. It's not necessarily just energy that is lodged in your physical body. It is also like an energetic imprint of what you have done in previous lifetimes, and your energetic field is used to that pattern. In order to break that pattern, we need to help you to make different decisions. I'm seeing a lot of sort of debris. Your solar plexus chakra is a little bit gray in regards to this particular subject matter. So they're saying that this is connected to the sacral chakra as well. And this will be addressed in the past life that we look at. Your heart space is flourishing. You're very open-hearted right now. You're very open in general. They're showing you to me like you're skipping through a field of flowers and grass, and like you're just super, super happy. And it's such a different type of happiness than what you've been used to, because it is entirely cultivated by you and your own divine energy. It's not cultivated by somebody outside of you. How long have you been feeling that?
I think the first moment I had was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I was jogging and then I saw a slug, no house attached. And I really had to kneel down and take pictures, and I just watched this slug eating away at a petal. And it was just so beautiful and so perfect. And I started to cry because it just touched me so deeply. And then I was thinking about afterwards, why did this touch me so much? And then I just got the download, because you were seeing with your heart.
Yeah.
And since then, I've noticed again and again when I look at people or other things or nature that, I'm able to see with my heart now and approach everything with my heart. And it's so magical.
Oh, that's incredible.
And I'm trying to pass that on to my kids and to everyone. And it's not always here, of course. I'm just
human. Of course, we're human.
Yeah. I do notice that my heart is just so open. I feel it, yeah.
And it's such a good reminder, because whenever you are in a space where you're feeling that your heart is closed, or you feel like you're getting wrapped up in maybe some shadows, focusing on that moment where you were really touched by the slug and the slug doing his slug things, and how beautiful that was for you. When we have an anchor point like that, it allows us to bring that feeling back, especially when we're in the darkness. Having those individual moments are really important for us to anchor that in. They're showing me your crown chakra. It's like your higher self is putting the last finishing touches on it. So like I'm seeing like a little version of you like polishing the outside of the crown and just getting things ready. This is something that is a new development for you. It's like a new upgraded crown chakra. And so you haven't quite started using it yet, but it's almost ready. There's not anything that you need to do. It's just a matter of time. So when that happens, it's like the messages are going to start coming in, and they're going to start coming in much more clearly for you. Okay, your third eye is a little sleepy at the moment. And I'm hearing rest. Like this is actually a period of rest for your third eye. And the reason why is because it's getting ready for an upgrade as well. And so oftentimes when we're having an upgrade to our chakra system, I don't want to say that the chakra goes dormant, but it has to go into like a period of rest while it's getting the upgrades. And that's what's happening to your third eye at this moment. So if you've been feeling like almost a little bit disconnected from your guides for the last couple of months, that's the reason why. Let's move that energy down into your throat chakra. Well, they're giving us a little clue here because you were asking how is it that you were going to be expressing the things that you want to do for a spiritual based business. And this is it. So I'm seeing musical notes, I'm seeing words, I'm seeing all kinds of things coming from your throat chakra. So it is going to be your voice. However you use your voice, that's going to be how you're going to mainly cultivate the information and get it out there. They're saying don't be too concerned about what that is going to look like just yet. Thank you to Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you for being here. Lovely to see you as always. Thank you to our Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here and allowing us access to the Akashic records. Thank you. Okay, so where do we need to go first? The patterns. Okay, so how many lifetimes ago is this going back for her in this pattern of not completing what she started? This is something that is actually natural for her. It isn't a blockage, so to speak. It is something that is part of her soul. It's something she will have to overcome. Can you show us how it's manifested in previous lifetimes and then possibly how she can overcome it in this one? Yes, but it is important to first show why it is part of her soul. Is this part of her soul's origin? It is. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So I love these analogies that they give us because they have to give it to us in a way that we can relate to the information here on Earth. So the way that they're showing it to me is that your soul overall has always been the type of soul to go in somewhere first. So imagine you are a construction crew and basically you are the soul that comes in and surveys the land and takes all the measurements and starts the project and let's say digs all the holes and like gets all the supports in and everything else. And then you put the main structure up and then you leave to go on to the next project and you leave the rest of it to be completed by the rest of the souls that need to complete that. So they're saying that in the way that you operate as a soul, it is your natural tendency to just put up the structure of something and then let somebody else finish it. What you're showing me, is this what they would call a blueprint designer light worker? Yes. The blueprint designer is essentially a soul that takes the imprint of a particular energy and creates blueprints or templates for that particular thing. So whether it's a new way to operate within forgiveness or unconditional love, it's something that you create energetically as a template. Now, this can actually be for physical things. So blueprint designer light workers were the ones that came in and essentially each cell of those souls created Earth and all of the galaxies, all of the stars, everything that's matter. The energy that is behind a blueprint designer has created something in that respect. Okay. So if you can imagine in the entire cosmos, you have all these energies everywhere swirling around, and you have a certain energies that transmute things, and then you have certain energies that create things. And that is what your energy does. Your energy creates. The creation energy is very much one that is rooted in the divine energy. It is rooted in the divine feminine energy, if you will. So that manifestation, that creation energy. When your sacral chakra is not doing well, which is actually part of what is going on at this moment, that is something that is affecting you more so than it would affect other people, simply because that is technically one of your superpowers, is to be able to create. So when your soul has created these templates, it's basically like you send these templates to people or to energies or to wherever you're sending these templates, and then they're able to take those templates and run with them. Okay. So you don't necessarily need to build everything based on those templates. It's like you're giving those templates to people to be able to create what they need to finish creating. So it's almost like your soul is like, okay, I've created this thing. Okay, now somebody needs to come in and help finish this, you know? And so you're almost waiting for somebody to come in and give you that little push and help you to complete the project. Have you ever thought about having partnerships with people?
Once in a while, the idea pops up, yeah.
They're saying that this is something that could really help you in a lot of ways, because those things that sort of keep you stuck in the almost complete phase, if you have somebody who can take it and run with it and help you with that completion phase, that could be something that would be incredibly beneficial for you. You need to make sure, though, that the people that you choose are people that are aligned with what your vision is and what you want to do. And maybe these partners are not necessarily long-term partners, but maybe they're just partners that will help you get over the finish line, so to speak. The other aspect of this is you've had a couple of past lives where this has been a big issue for you. So we need to look at 2 past lives. Yes. Okay. Let's see the first one, please. In this lifetime, you're a man. You have glasses on, and then you have almost like a magnifying glass attached to one of the other glasses. So one of the lenses, and you're looking at something very close up. This isn't like a microscope. It's more of a looking glass that is just magnifying whatever it is you're looking at. You're studying it. You're studying, interestingly enough, it is a bug. It's like a caterpillar of some sort. And you're looking at it very close up. You're trying to identify the segments of the body. You're trying to take a look at its physiology. For lack of a better word, they're saying that this wasn't necessarily a term in this particular lifetime, but for lack of a better term, you would be considered a biologist in this lifetime. You were fascinated with how things worked. You were fascinated with the human body as well as all creatures on Earth and how they operate, what the skeletal system looks like. I'm looking sort of behind you, and you have one of those sort of charts that has butterflies and various different insects like sort of pinned to the board, looking at each one and trying to figure out what the species was, all of those types of things. You have notebooks upon notebooks of written information. Is that something that you have in this lifetime?
Yes. Piles and piles.
Yeah, it's something that is important to you. But the thing is, you didn't have enough information, meaning that the technology wasn't there yet in terms of being able to quantify, let's say, cells and cell reproduction and things like that. Like the technology wasn't there to be able to see that close. And so you were able to get to a certain point of your research, but there was like a particular point where you couldn't go any further and you just had to stop because you just didn't have the technology. You didn't have the tools. You didn't have what you needed to be able to come to conclusions or to discover new things about the structure of a cell, or the structure of why one insect had one skeletal structure and then a similar insect had a different skeletal structure, and why. Like why was that the case, right? You were tapping in a little bit to like evolution. You were kind of looking at, oh, and I'm getting big chills right now. Yeah, you were tapping a little bit into like, okay, how do living creatures evolve? You wanted very much to like connect with archaeologists as well, and other people who really studied the past, so you could get this information. But it's like, I just keep on hearing you saying like, I just don't know any archaeologists. Like I need to find one, but I don't know anyone who does that. It was something that you had read about in books, but you had never met somebody who did that. Ah, that is part of it. Okay. So in this lifetime, you knew you needed help. You knew you could only go so far on your own, and you wanted other people's input and other people's information. You just didn't know how to find those people. You know, you could send notes to people, but like you just didn't have names. You didn't know where to actually go to find these people. And you knew that if you could collaborate with the right people, that you would be able to further your research, but you just couldn't find them. It's almost as if you felt like you were being blocked from finding them too, because I'm seeing that you wanted to write this one person a letter and send the letter, but then like the letter just never arrived, or you never got a response, or it was almost like you had a block in every direction you went in. Every time you tried to get a collaborator or somebody you could work with, it just fell through. So why was that? Why did it fall through for that version of her in terms of partnership? She wasn't ready to hear the information that she was going to get, because the information she was going to get was going to actually be inaccurate, and she would have known that. She would have connected with some of these people that she was writing, and she was writing them just because they had that profession. It didn't mean that they were actually correct about their findings. So in fact, the universe was protecting her from getting wrong information, or getting information that would deter her from her purpose in that lifetime. So it was actually protection for her. And that is the case in this lifetime as well. So if you find that you are doing things and things are not landing exactly the way that you want them to, in terms of timing or in terms of how they are coming together, just know that a lot of that has to do with the fact that your guides are working with you to be able to unfold whatever it is you want to unfold in the exact right time. And you may not have all the information yet to be able to unfold what you want to unfold. But this frustration actually created this pattern. So this frustration that you had in terms of not hearing back from people, not getting the information you needed, it's like I'm seeing all of these notebooks piled up, and each notebook is like 75% complete, or 80% complete, or 90% complete. And it's like you just need little bits of information to complete those notebooks and to complete the information. You just don't have the information, and you couldn't find it. And so the frustration sort of mounted the later in life you got, because you could only get so far with some of that information. What you didn't realize is that the 75% or 80% of the information that you had was incredible information that you could have started working with. But you were negating that because you were like, no, but there's something more, there's something more. So you were almost like stuck in that chase energy of chasing that last bit before you would even get started on anything. And the challenge with that is that you could have gotten started on any one of those notebooks, any one of those ideas. You could have used one of them and just moved forward without having that final piece. And the final piece would have been revealed to you by the universe when the timing was right. So it is an element of trust. It is an element of trust that you haven't had in the past in the universe, because you didn't know that this was what you needed as the last and final piece of whatever project it was. So in addition to the way that your soul operates, that you always look for a partnership, that you always look for somebody to finish off what you started, that energy permeated throughout these lifetimes. And then added on top of that, you have this frustration in this lifetime that we're talking about now, where you feel like your power was being taken away from you by the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So that solar plexus blockage that you have is actually regarding your own faith that things are going to turn out the way that you want them to, or that is aligned for you, because those are two very different things. Wanting something to work out for you, for your highest good, for your highest path or highest timeline is one thing. Wanting things to work out the way that you want them to is actually quite a different thing, because oftentimes we don't see all of the things ahead of us that can happen, and the things that we want may not be exactly what we are meant for.
Mm-hmm.
It actually kind of made you a little bit ungrounded. They're showing you to me in your workspace. The books are piling up, they're piling up, they're piling up. And then you're almost getting crushed by the weight of the information and the lack of information. So it's the information that you knew you needed that you couldn't get, and then the information that you had. And I'm seeing you almost crouching down, putting your hands over your head in frustration, feeling almost like you're going to lose your mind, because you felt like you were going in circles and circles and circles, and that it just wasn't landing. Oh, so did she actually do that? She did. Oh, wow. So you torched the whole thing. You basically got so frustrated, you just burned it all. You were like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So all the years of research, all of the years of studying, all the years of everything, you just basically, you threw all the books in a fire and burned them all. But what was amazing is that after you did that, you felt incredible. You felt really, really good to be able to just let go. And that is important. It's important on this journey to be able to let go, because you still had all this knowledge in your brain. It's not like because the notebooks were gone that you didn't have the knowledge anymore. But I'm seeing you walk away from it all, and actually you just started enjoying your life. Oh, that's really beautiful. The people that knew you were saying things like, oh my gosh, you're like a different person. Mm-hmm. And it very much was like you were a different person, because the other version of you was very obsessed and very tied to this work. And the second you decided to let it go was when you started to really find joy and happiness. And that would be the third reason why you have a tendency to not finish, because you realized in that lifetime that, okay, well, I don't have to finish. And by not finishing, I can just move on and find happiness. You know, that's kind of what they want you to do. It's not about not finishing a project, but it's like, if you are working on a project, and then it just stops and you can't go any further, let it go. Mm-hmm. Move on. Go to something else. Ask for help if you want to, if you feel like it's really aligned. Because if you ask your spirit team for help, and this is something that I do every day, ask your angels and guides for help every day, and then say, if this is aligned for me, if this is something that is meant for me, then give me a sign, or allow whatever I need to do, this last piece, whatever that happens to be, allow it to come to me easily. Because that's the one thing. There's a difference between having to do a lot of work to get something to come to fruition and allowing the universe to bring something to you that is aligned. Have you had a situation in your life where you can recognize that, where you can recognize the time where something just sort of came to you really easily, like the universe just sort of delivered something to you?
Well, I've been having it in small now for the last year already, with building my business, which does look like, pivoting from one thing to the next and always starting and then starting something new again.
Yeah.
So I do really have the tendency to start things, to go as far as I feel I can go. And then something new pops up. I just trash what I've been working on, or just put it aside and start something new. So I really do jump from one thing to the other. I just realized that a few days ago that it feels very easy for me to leave those things behind. Like also I'm setting up a new website, for example. And I mean, really, I'm leaving my website provider and starting something completely new. And I just told a friend about it, and his reaction was, but there was so much work, to build your first website was so much work.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, yeah, I know, but that means that I have to keep it forever now. It just doesn't feel right anymore. It was a lot of work. I poured a lot of love into it, but now I need something else. So now it's easy for me to transition or to let go of things if I'm led to some other place. That I really do notice. Like I'm not stuck to old things that I've created just because it was a lot of work.
And that's actually a really good thing, to stay nimble in that way, because the more your energy changes and the more information you get, the more aligned you are with your gifts, the more you can start putting the puzzle pieces together, the easier it is for you to understand that what the universe is handing you is a brand new way of doing things. And in order to embrace the brand new way of doing things, you must let go of the old. One of the things that they want you to understand is that because this is sort of part of your soul, this is part of what your experience has been throughout the course of your soul, try to look at it as a superpower rather than a hindrance. Because like in this past life that we looked at, you looked at it like a hindrance until you didn't. And once you were able to walk away from all of that research, you felt so much better. And that's how you know when it's aligned. If it feels really good, really light, really aligned, that is your clue that it's the right direction. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to go back to some of the information that you had in the past, or like you were saying, you're working on human design, and let's say you're doing that and then you sort of leave that behind for a little while. It doesn't mean that you're going to not come back to that. It just means that you're focusing on something else at this time.
And I can very much relate to that feeling of chasing something, like always having the feeling that I just need one more little bit of information or one more thing and then I'm ready.
Yeah.
That is very, very strong.
Let's take a look at the next lifetime they want to show us. I'm seeing the pyramids. This is in Egypt, but the pyramids had already been built at this point. Yes. Okay. I'm just trying to get context because sometimes they'll show me symbols of things and I don't know whether or not they're just showing it to me as a symbol so I know what they're talking about or if it's an actual thing. This was during a particular time in Egypt where the pyramids had already been built, but I am seeing you with scrolls and I'm seeing you with various different plans. You are helping to build, I don't know why I'm seeing just arches. Was this part of like a religious structure? It was. I'm just seeing like very ornate arches. I'm seeing like sort of like stone, and then I'm seeing like blue, like bright azure blue as a keystone. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. This was this was your signature. Okay, that's interesting. So your signature, for lack of a better term, I guess you would be considered like an architect back then, but your signature was this blue keystone in any arch. You liked to have your work known. You wanted to be known for something. You were quite famous in the time. You were very sought after. It's really interesting though, because you really only focused on religious structures or structures for the gods. You didn't want to do structures for kings. If it was connected to the gods, if it was connected to the spiritual, you were completely on board with creating that structure. And I keep on hearing kings would try to pay you like a ridiculous amount of money or give you land or give you all of these things if you would come and design things for them. And you said no, you refused. I keep on hearing you say, I serve the gods. That's all I do is I serve the gods. And the interesting thing is that to refuse a king is not something people did, but because you were serving the gods, like they couldn't really say anything. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't like retort because they follow the same rules with the gods. So it's like they know that if that's your calling, that there's nothing that they can do about that. But I keep on hearing you say, I cannot be corrupted. Oh, interesting. Okay. You were wealthy to an extent, but you turned down so much money that it actually became kind of an energetic pattern moving forward for you, where actually your energy started almost naturally repelling money because you didn't want it coming from places that you didn't believe in. So this is the second piece of it. It doesn't necessarily have to do with you completing or not completing a project, but it has to do with your limitations on a project. Can you tell me a little bit about your abundance in this lifetime?
Well, I don't really value money. It's not important to me. I've always trusted that if I need money, it will come from some place, and it always worked. But I also always said I will never work full time for anyone. I will always stay part time so I can just study whatever I want to study. So I have time for my studies. And I never understood the concept of working for somebody else, for something you don't really believe in, and to make money for somebody else. That just didn't fit my perspective.
That's amazing, because that's exactly what this previous lifetime is. That's what we're talking about, right? So it's like you would not compromise who you are for just money, for doing something for a king, right? That is something that is very, very admirable. And it's also something that is very aligned for you. The only caveat and the reason why they're bringing it up now is that it is creating a little bit of a block in terms of you being able to receive the right kinds of money. It's like there's a moral standard put on how you're going to receive money. And if you imagine your entire energy field being completely heart open, you can feel what that feels like, right? Like you said, you were having these very beautiful heart open moments. You feel how expansive that is, right? I want you to feel into your energy as it pertains to receiving money. Does that feel expansive or does it feel contracting for you?
Oh, it makes me so small.
Yeah.
I found that out quite a while ago, that one of the blocks I thought I was having with these projects and not finishing things or not putting it out there, that the reason was that I'm afraid of success. I'm not afraid of failure, but I'm afraid of success because it just scares me to know that there's money coming in, even though I need money. I mean, at the point where I really do need this feeling of freedom, which I haven't had for 3 years now, since I started working for myself and not earning a cent, because I'm pushing that side away. I never tried to sell anything because it didn't feel right, but I do need to get that going. So it does feel like I'm very, very blocked, or that I'm pushing that away.
First, it helps to understand where you came from. So knowing this past life where you were turning down all of this work because it wasn't aligned for you, knowing about this past life is going to help you understand that this is something that you have done throughout many, many incarnations. You keep on saying no to money, no to money, no to money, and eventually money is not going to flow to you. So it is as simple as saying yes to money. This can look like many different things for you. You can go into a meditation and simply state, I welcome money into my life. I welcome abundance in money into my life. And imagine that expansive energy. Imagine that opening energy, and allowing the universe and trusting the universe that the money that's going to come to you is aligned for you, as opposed to placing a moral judgment on the money itself. You can simply set the intention that all of the money that comes to you is simply an energetic exchange for the services that you are doing for the planet. So if you think about it in terms of balance, everything needs to be in balance at all times. Now, that may seem like a strange thing to say, given the fact that on this planet there are many imbalances. But the reason for the strong imbalances is because oftentimes we have things go from one extreme, and then from one extreme, it has to go to another in order to balance. So if you are in a place where you feel like you are putting in all sorts of work, you're doing the energetic work, you're doing the research, you're doing all of these things, once you start serving humanity and the community with the gifts that you have, it is important for you to have that energy exchange of money for services. And that is simply just to keep the balance, because otherwise, if you consider karma in this, the other person would actually be beholden to you in terms of energy. Now, the way that energy works is that it's not just that person beholden to you. It would be in any other particular way that that energy would need to come back to you, or that energy would need to come from them. Let's say, for example, you did a reading for somebody and it was a free reading. If you're just starting out in your career, in your process of how you're going to be showing up for people as a spiritual teacher, doing a reading for somebody for free is okay as far as an energetic exchange, because what you are doing is you are receiving feedback, you are receiving practice, you are receiving a lot of good information by being able to do this session for free for this other person. But as you move forward and as you get better at what you're doing, having somebody pay you money is a beautiful way to be able to have that energy exchange. If you decide to give a reading for free, then let's say that person would end up having to give that energy to somebody else in some other way. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense in terms of how that works? In order for you to be able to receive, you have to be open to receiving. You have to value the gift that you have and the role that you have on this planet. You have to value what you have to offer. Because if you consider people who continually give and give and give, that is going to be a drain on your energy. That is going to be that drain on the solar plexus chakra in overgiving, and that leads to codependency. So if you can look at money as a very neutral energy as it is, and look at it as simply a means of energy exchange. And that is something that you'll hear a lot in the spiritual community. A lot of practitioners will say, oh, give me an energy exchange and this and this and that. And that's fine. And that's how that a lot of people sort of get around their money blocks, is instead of actually charging for a session or charging for something specifically, they will say, please offer an energy exchange, whatever you feel is right for you. The problem with that is that that is not always balanced. If you set a very good boundary as to what your rates are and what you're charging, that will then state, okay, I'm giving you X amount of time, you're giving me X amount of money, and that energy exchange is complete. That is essentially how those energies work in terms of when you need things to be in balance. And likewise, because you have been giving for so long and because you have not been receiving as much, the amount that you are banking, so to speak, in the amount of how much you will receive is quite significant. So allow yourself to receive and don't feel guilty for receiving that, because you've put that in the energetic bank already. So I want you to feel into your heart space. And I want you to imagine receiving a large sum of money. And I want you to tell me how that feels.
It feels exciting.
Okay, good.
I get a sense of looking forward to it, as if it's been soon.
Great. So can you identify that fear at all?
I'm getting the information that it's about what will people think of me.
Oh,
What will
right.
others think who I am, because I am transforming quite a lot and I'm still not really stepping into who I am or who I'm transforming into. So it feels like, oh, what will people say? And okay, does she deserve it? I mean, spirituality, is that a thing? Can you even charge for that? These old limiting beliefs that we have. Yeah, who is she now? And what will people think? People who know me.
There are two things that are going on here. So the first thing is it's a little bit of an easier thing to address. And that is the value and worth of your time and who you are. It's something that I've often said, which is you look at some of the really big spiritual teachers, let's say Deepak Chopra, or somebody who is really big and has a lot of money, right? Who says that the information you have, the gifts that you have, are any less than Deepak Chopra? They're not. It just happens that Deepak Chopra is incredibly smart, has a really great team, and is really, really good at marketing and has been doing this for a very, very long time. It's aligned for him to be who he is, to be this public figure, to bring this information into the world. That doesn't make him better than everybody else. It doesn't make him more worthy of anybody else. What it makes him is really successful, right? It makes him able to really get out these beautiful messages and be successful at it. That's all it means. There's no reason why you couldn't be that successful. There's no reason at all if it is in your aligned path. Now, you can think about that in terms of, okay, that seems really far away, and that's fine. I just wanted to sort of show you where that sort of feeling is, where we think that something is so far away because we see somebody like Deepak Chopra and we're like, oh my God, that's like, he's untouchable, right? And that's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's one aspect of it, is that you are just as worthy and just as abundant as anyone else who can have that kind of notoriety. It's just a matter of tapping into that alignment within you and within your soul path, within your life purpose, and be able to do that from that standpoint and understand that your life is going to unfold before you in support of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why we're not going to be abundant in that is if we are blocking it ourselves. There are also other aspects where sometimes people will sign up for lifetimes where they sign up to have financial hardships in order to learn certain lessons, but that's not what you've done. That's not in your soul plan this lifetime. So you can sort of let that entirely go. Okay, so then the other thing that you had mentioned was the feeling of what would people think? This is something that is very common in terms of going through your spiritual awakening. I went through it myself, where I didn't want to share with people what I was doing. I was doing this stuff for years before I shared it with most people. When I first started doing these readings and I first started going on social media and things like that, I was really scared because I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think? People are going to think I've gone off the deep end. They're going to think I'm crazy, that kind of thing. And so, and here and now I have a podcast, so it's like, now all my crazy is out there. It's fine because part of that fear, and I want you to feel into this for me, part of that fear is rooted in the lack of belief within you. Fearing other people's judgment in terms of your beliefs, in terms of your spirituality, in terms of where you're going. If you are still in the process of really understanding who you are, how you're showing up in the world, what you're going to be doing, it's really hard to fathom talking to somebody and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing human design and I'm going to be doing readings for people. I'm going to be helping them through their spiritual journeys. And if you were to have somebody say to you while you're in that sort of incubation process, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Or, oh, that's so ridiculous. And I can't believe you believe that stuff. And isn't that just nonsense? And all of that. And, if you have somebody that comes at you with that kind of energy, the fear is often rooted in, oh my gosh, would somebody be able to tear down this belief system that I've created? Mm-hmm. So can you feel into that? Can you tell me what percentage of that fear is rooted in that?
I think it was quite a large percentage at the beginning, but now I'm getting about 10% because I do think that I'm really just starting to see the effects on myself, on my body, on my stability. I don't believe everything fully yet. I know that, I'm aware of that. I believe that I don't.
We always have doubts.
Yeah, it's kind of, I do believe everything you tell me, but at some point it's like, hey, really?
Yeah, yeah.
But I do notice how I've been changing in the last months, and I'm aware that people notice it as well. So actually, as soon as I start sharing about what's going on, everyone is very open to it because I think they can see it or see me as the visible representation of, okay, she's really onto something. There is something there. The only thing that my ego is trying to tell me is that I need to prove it financially first. I need to prove that it's worth something, that I really have a business with these things before I can actually step into it. And it's kind of, like a vicious circle. I feel that I can't be fully spiritual and doing my thing if I have the money on my mind. And at the same time, I feel that I can't put my light out into the world if I don't prove that I can earn money with it. So I feel a little bit stuck in that. But I think it feels, after what you said now and the root cause of this being in that past life, the money issues, it does feel that's all connected and that it's kind of unfolding now. I do feel a sense of relief at this moment. Yeah.
And the thing that I also want to acknowledge for you is that feeling that we were just talking about of what if somebody comes in and shakes the foundation of what I've created, I want you to acknowledge the fact that that fear is 90% gone and that you can let that go. You can let that energy go, because sometimes we can let that go, but then it might still be active in our energy field. Okay. When we release and when we go through our shadow work and we dive into these things, there are times when we feel like, oh yeah, we're just fine. We've moved past it. It's all good. But then that energy is still trapped in our body or our energy field for a particular period of time until it's released. So I want you to focus on releasing any energy where you would feel judged, where you would feel unstable because of that judgment. I want you to release any energy that feels that you would be judged for asking for money for what you do, because this is a collective belief system that is almost damaging to the spiritual world, which is, if you are spiritual, you should not be asking for money for anything. And if you're in service of God, you shouldn't be asking for money for everything. Well, where did that come from exactly? My first thought goes to organized religions, where they had priests and monks and all sorts of people who worked for the churches and every other religion. Oh, you're supposed to be pious and you're not supposed to have money, right? Yeah. That's a falsehood in and of itself, because look at how contradictory that was. You know, they're saying that the church is supposed to not have money, but yet look at all the grand, beautiful churches we have that cost lots and lots of money. You know, it's that paradox between what the belief system is and what actually is in real life. When you take a look at your own self-worth, they're showing me that this is part of what we had seen in the solar plexus, that little gray spot that I was seeing in the solar plexus. It's that value of how much you value yourself and your work. I would be surprised if you don't value yourself and your work, because right now I'm feeling that within your solar plexus chakra, like you have this immense pride in what you do and you love what you do. If you can connect with your heart right now and ask your heart, what is it that is creating this feeling that you are not worth a particular amount of money for what you have to offer?
Just feels like because I haven't done it yet.
Okay. So let me ask the guides what advice they can give you in order to move forward with that. Oh, well, this goes to the other question that you were asking. Are there any past lives where you have done this? And they're saying, yes, you've already done this before in many lifetimes. Okay. So can you give us maybe a lifetime that will give us an example of this, please? We can give you 3 different lifetimes. Okay. Let's take a look at the first one. So this lifetime that they're showing me right now, it looks like an old woman who is living on the streets, and you literally have a line of people going down the street waiting to talk to you. And I'm seeing you do have tarot cards with you, and you're just giving people readings. They're very, very short readings, no more than 5 minutes. And actually, you don't even need the cards. The cards are just there because they're there, but you don't even need them. Each person that comes up to you is like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you know? They're trying to hand you a coin and you're saying, no, please keep it. No, please keep it. So you're refusing any money for this work that you're doing, and you're living on the streets. But it's interesting because you were still provided for, because even after you do this day in and day out, you became very beloved in this village. And so the restaurateurs and like all of the people in the area were like feeding you, giving you warmth. Like if it was a really cold night, they would bring you in, things like that. So like the community actually took care of you. This was actually kind of furthering your feeling of, look, I don't need money. I'm always provided for. I'm always taken care of, which is very sweet. And it's very nice that these people were taking care of you. But had you taken the money, you wouldn't have needed that. It is very much about how you want to live your life. That is a lifetime that you can tap into. If you can imagine the scene that I'm seeing it's a cobblestone bridge that she's sitting on. And there's a very narrow body of water underneath this cobblestone bridge. The peaks of the houses are very, very triangular. They're very pointy. It does feel like somewhere in Europe. Could be France, actually.
I was thinking France.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the next lifetime you want to show us? So this next lifetime, I'm seeing you show your son the stars. You're a man in this lifetime. You have a little boy at the age of 5, and you're pointing out the different stars in the sky, and you're showing him what they mean and the pictures that you can draw with the constellations. And I keep on seeing you point to the stars, and then you're putting your hand on your little boy's heart. Like you're saying that the stars are in here, the stars are in your heart. You can use the energy of the stars to create anything, to do anything you want. You're trying to imbue this idea with your son that he can do anything, that he can be anything. It's this heart openness that I'm feeling from both him and you, that you don't need validation to become what you are meant to become. There is no outside validation needed. You become what you're meant to become because it is destined to happen. It is destined for you to be who you are in this lifetime. If you end up not becoming what you are meant to be, it is because you are blocking it. So allow yourself to shine like these stars that you're seeing. The stars never lie. They're always constant. You know who they are and why they're here and what they're showing you. It is something that you want your son to keep in his heart at all times. The ability to know that what is meant for him will always come for him. All he needs to do is say, yes, I accept and I allow. And the next lifetime? Or do we need anything else from that one? No. Okay. The next lifetime. They're showing me a rocket ship, and they're showing me the rocket ship going into the sky. And actually, this is more of a metaphor than what's going on in this past life, but it's like the rocket ship is going in the sky and it's creating like this heart shape, this heart picture. What they're saying to me is that in this particular past life, you were always looking to other people and to other things as far as things you wanted to do. Oh, I see this person doing that thing, and oh, I want to do that, and I want to do that. The message for this particular past life that we're looking at is that in this lifetime, you were constantly chasing someone else's dreams. And it's time you stop doing that. It's time that you start chasing your own. Once you start chasing your own dreams, that whole chasing bit ceases to exist. You don't need to chase your dreams because they're yours. You don't need to follow them because they're yours. They are already within you. So you don't have to chase anything. You just have to be and allow, just like the father was telling the son in the previous lifetime, allow your dreams to come to you. Allow what is aligned for you to come to you. That is very much that receiving energy, that divine feminine energy, that sacral chakra energy, being able to connect to what is yours. It's like standing next to train tracks, watching a train, and then just grabbing on and letting it take you where you need to go. You don't have to drive the train. You don't have to make sure that it's going, put coal in the engine. You don't have to do any of those things. All you have to do is grab the rail and let it pull you. In this previous lifetime, you were constantly trying to jump on someone else's train, and that is not meant for you. You can think what other people are doing is amazing and cool and admire them for it, but forge your own path. And by doing so, you are aligning with your life and soul purpose. So if you can, stop looking to others and the way that they've done things. Look within and do things the way that you would do things. Okay, so is that helpful for you to tap into those 3 lifetimes?
Definitely, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we are going to close out the Akashic Records. I want to thank Kula, my Akashic Guide, for being here. And thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandovan. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you. So how do you feel?
Great. It was really helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, my dear, I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
You're welcome. You as well. Bye.
Bye.
A big thank you to Amber for allowing us to record her session and sharing her beautiful journey with us. There are so many things about the timing of these recordings that just astonish me. It still astonishes me how beautiful and connected everything is. I hope I never actually lose that feeling of awe and inspiration based on all of the synchronicities that happen on a regular basis, because it is really incredible. So a couple of synchronicities that happened, one which is unrelated to the episode, but then is very important and personal to me. But then the other is completely relevant to the session itself today. The first synchronicity is my beautiful Lucius being all throughout this episode. And this was a session that was recorded, obviously, prior to his crossing over. And I've been really guided over the course of this podcast to take on various different sessions or episodes for any particular period of time. Although this session was recorded probably around 8 months ago, it is something that needed to be heard at this very time. And sometimes those synchronicities can be in relation to me and the knowledge that I have or the information that I have, or it just means that that is what is meant to be experienced by you, the audience, at a particular time. The fact that Lucius was all throughout this episode was really beautiful because I had gotten a ton of signs of him yesterday while I was editing this episode. Google had given me a timeline video, if you will, saying 5 years ago today, here's a bunch of pictures of Lucius. And then Lucius also came to me in my dreams as well, to the point where I actually felt him on my bed. I felt him at my feet. He used to also like bite my ankles sometimes. That was something I also felt in the dream. He was clearly very much with me yesterday, and that is deeply meaningful for me. The other aspect is that this episode is about abundance blocks and moving forward and through those abundance blocks. And I didn't know that that's what this session would be about when I first started editing it. Because how I usually go about these episodes is when I record the sessions, I will put the person's name and put the general topics in a spreadsheet. That's it. Just like maybe 1 or 2 sentences. I don't have the full grasp of what the entire episode will entail because, as I've mentioned many times before, I forget everything that's in the session, usually upon the closing of the records. I had an idea that this was about abundance, but I didn't know the full gamut of what this session would entail. And I just so happened to listen to a Bashar channeling about a week ago. And this Bashar channeling was talking about everything that we are discussing here in this episode, which was super cool for me because to hear the Bashar channeling and have it align so well with what I had talked about in this session with Amber was a really beautiful validation. One of the big themes is about recognizing that abundance comes in many, many different ways. And I want to point this out because in the session, the guides basically told us about 3 different lifetimes in which Amber had already achieved the ability to receive and understand her own abundance. But if you notice, none of those lifetimes were her being incredibly successful monetarily. It's not like she was famous or that she had some incredible windfall of wealth in money, but she had windfalls of abundance in other areas. And that is one of the most important messages, I think, of this particular session is that we have to recognize where our abundance is coming from. Because you might be looking at your bank account and being worried and saying, oh my gosh, I have no money, or whatever you are stressing about, but you are not looking at the ways in which you are being supported. And maybe you're being supported because a friend is helping you. Maybe you're being supported because others are offering you some sort of assistance, whether it's monetary, whether it's offering you what you need at that moment as a trade, whatever it is something to be recognized. It is something to be acknowledged, because when we don't acknowledge it, we're basically saying to the universe, no, I don't want that support. I don't want that abundance. To recognize the abundance in the way that it is coming is important. Every time you receive that abundance, thank the universe, thank your higher self, thank your guides. Say, thank you for showing me this abundance in my life. Thank you for having the abundance show up in ways that I never expected. Now, of course, we focus on money as that form of abundance in society right now. It will change eventually. Things will start to shift and change. And it already has to an extent. But at this time, we value money above all else when we hear the word abundance. And that's okay, because that is something that is within our society. It's a contract that we've sort of agreed to within society. What do we do with that information? Well, we can have gratitude on all fronts for all types of abundance. So whether it is somebody that is coming to help you, whether it is an opportunity that is showing up for you that you need to take action on in order to have your abundance, whether it is an actual monetary assistance, no matter how it shows up, acknowledge it. Feel into the ways in which you might be feeling unworthy of it, where you might be feeling that you are pushing that away. And this can be in anything. Where are you pushing away love? Where are you pushing away closeness and connection and acceptance? Where are you pushing away the abundance? Some of the exercises that I did with Amber in this session can help you to identify those places. This is something that I do with my clients often, which is a very simple exercise. Just closing your eyes and connecting to your heart and asking, does it feel expansive or contracting? And that can help you get an idea of where your energy stands with any particular situation, any particular energy. So I want you to do that right now. I want you to just think of what you define as abundance and how does it feel for you? Does it feel expansive? Does it give you those butterflies in your stomach? Do you feel excited about it? Or does it feel dark and contracting? And then you can start asking the follow-up questions of, okay, so what is this showing me? Where is this taking me in terms of the exploration of why it might feel contracting if it is? Pay attention to those things as you go throughout your day, because we connect to the energy of abundance and money on a daily basis. We do so often that we don't even think about it. And recognizing where you stand as it pertains to abundance is going to make all the difference in the world as to how you move forward. So you don't need to know what it feels like to be a millionaire, to have all of that money. You just need to know what it feels like to be abundant, to be supportive, and to be open to that abundance and support. If you want to further tap into those 5 forms of abundance that Bashar was channeling, you can certainly look it up. There's plenty of YouTube videos. But the 5 forms of abundance that he speaks about are synchronicity, trade, gifts, imagination, and money. There are 2 other themes that I would like to address from the session today. The first one is talking about things not working out for your highest good. It was really beautifully illustrated in that previous lifetime where Amber was really trying to connect with other scientists and other archaeologists to get information that she was missing. And the universe kept on putting sort of a block on it. And you might say that the universe will never put a block on you for anything, which is true. But I have experienced this myself, that it can be coming from your higher self. It can be coming from your guides. It can be coming from the universe, where they might just sort of guide you in the right direction, which might not align with the direction that you want to go. If you imagine if you're bowling and the ball goes in the gutter, the ball has no choice but to continue going in the gutter versus where you wanted to go to hit all the pins, right? And that's kind of what's happening, is that you're being guided in a different direction, even though you want to go in the direction of getting a strike and hitting the pins, let's say. And this has happened to me many, many times. And it happens to me on a regular basis, actually, with my computer. This is really funny because if I'm about to buy something or purchase a plane ticket or an experience or anything, my guides have gotten really good at not making the website work, or not making my computer work, or having my computer stutter, or there's some sort of electronic thing that happens that prevents me from buying this thing. And there are times in the past where I have pushed through and I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it again. And I'm going to try it again. And it still doesn't work. And so then finally I just give up and walk away, right? now it takes me a little less time to realize when my guides are actually telling me to not do something because it is not for my highest good, or because there is something better that I would want to do or want to purchase or want to experience. So it's kind of funny because that's just a very small thing. And it's something that was happening in this past life for Amber, where she was writing these letters and they were not getting to their destination. They were getting lost or blocked in some way. And that is sort of how the universe keeps us on track, because as they said, if Amber would have gotten the information from these other scientists, that it would have actually derailed her research, because what she was getting was directly from universal consciousness and from her own research. And some of these other scientists that were maybe more well known were not going to give her the information that was even accurate, because maybe they were rooted in some other fear, or maybe they were rooted in some other way of doing their scientific research where they weren't connected to that universal knowledge. It is about that divine protection. And that's a very common saying. People know the saying, which is rejection is divine protection. But do you really understand what that means? It's not that you're being protected from something that would be bad necessarily. It is just that you are being guided more heavily onto your path. And I guess that's a better way of putting it than saying that you have a block against something. It is more that you are heavily guided towards something else. And if you are resisting that something else, and if you're trying to force yourself onto another path, that's going to look like a block, but it's really not. It's not a block at all. It's a redirection. Where in your life right now are you being redirected? Where are you in a place where you keep on pushing the send button and it's not sending, or bashing your head against a wall because you just keep on doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working? That is where you have to take the time to identify where you need to take a step back, where you need to let go, where you need to choose another path. More times than not, I find it just requires you to walk away and maybe revisit it at another time. And maybe by the time that happens, it's not even necessary anymore for you to do that thing, purchase that thing, experience that thing. So pay attention to those places and try not to get super frustrated if things are not working out. Understand that there is a reason. Even if that reason isn't revealed to you right away, hindsight is always going to give you that clarity. And with this new moon that we just had in Scorpio on November 1st, 2024, it is a perfect time to ask for that clarity, to ask for that information from your guides and say, for the things that I am meant to know, please give me clarity. For the things that I am not meant to know, give me clarity that I am to let those things go for now. That's the intention that you can set for this month and for the next 6 months. Until the full moon in Scorpio. So you have 6 months to be able to cultivate this energy of staying on your path and allowing the universe to reveal to you the clarity that you need to move forward. The last subject I want to address is the blueprint designer that we were talking about in the beginning of the session, the type of light worker that Amber is. Now, this is something that I am familiar with because it is the type of light worker that I am as well. Now, I've talked about this before, the various different types of light workers, the different types of jobs we have, and we can have multiple jobs. It's not just that you are one type of light worker. And I've also discussed what a light worker is in previous episodes of the podcast. So if you feel like going back and searching for that, you can certainly do that. The type of light worker that you are is not super important for what you do as a human necessarily. It's a nice bit of information to know as you move forward, but it is just your innate talents. It is your innate energy of what you do as a soul and as a human. It's not something you have to try to do or that you have to move into. It is just something that you intrinsically are. That's why it doesn't really matter if you know, because you just are that particular energy and there's nothing further you really need to do about it. It is something that is important for some people to know just because it can help them move through certain things or cultivate certain things, but it is not necessary. I also want to address the type of light worker. So in other words, you have grid workers, you have blueprint designers, you have energy healers, you've got all these different types of light workers. And I just want to let you know that the labels don't don't actually matter. I was given that label of blueprint designer from my mentors, actually, when they gave me one of my first Akashic readings. And that really resonated with me. And I further looked into it in my Akashic records, and the energy of it resonated. The label itself doesn't actually matter. It can be called something completely different, and it's still the same energy. That is something that I talk about a lot, is the labels that we have to put on things here in the world in order to understand them. It is necessary, but it's not necessarily about the labels. It is about the energy that you feel and the energy that you are. So if you've been told you're a different kind of light worker, or it's a different label, a different title, whatever it is, don't get hung up too much on the titles of things. Don't get hung up on whether you're this type of energy. I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, I'm a Blu-ray number 5 energy, or I'm a gold energy, or I'm a this, then, it's fine. Of course you are, but the label does not matter. So connect to the energy, and however you feel you want to label that energy is up to you. You don't have to take on the labels that other people give you. It's just another means to be able to describe the energy of your soul. And that is one of the most important things to understand, is that the purpose of our journey is evolution. It's growth. It's becoming something more and different than you have been in the past. So connecting to those labels of what type of light worker you are almost keeps you stuck in that energy of what you were versus what you could expand into. Could you be all of the light workers? Could you be all of those energies? Yeah, you could. But if you're busy labeling yourself, then you are keeping yourself stuck in those places. And that might be okay for a time, but just be open to letting go of those things that you keep yourself in. It was such a pleasure connecting with you today. I can't wait to connect with you again next week, which will be the final episode of season 2. But not to worry, because we will be back really soon with new episodes and season 3 of the Akashic Recordings. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.